Hey, I'm Lana from Lana Glowshot Art, and in this video, we'll be unboxing the October 2024 Sketchbox. This box is all about playing with ink in some fun, creative ways. Ready? Let's go. The surface in this month's box is a Sketchbox exclusive. The Ben Fang mixed media paper is perfect for a variety of dry and wet materials, and as a premium subscriber, you're going to be among the first to try this product. This mixed media paper is perfect for our Kuretake Ultimate Zero Matte Black ink, which is another Sketchbox exclusive. We also have the Art Alternative 2Well Cupcake Palette and the size 8 round King Art Gold Grip Brush. Here I am swatching the Kuretake Ultimate Zero Black ink. This ink is very, very saturated, and when it dries, it's completely matte, which means it's not going to be reflecting any light off the surface, which makes it great to photograph, and it also makes your blacks appear darker. Now I'm exploring a variety of washes by adding more water into my ink. And sometimes it requires quite a bit of water to actually make these washes appear lighter, because as I mentioned, this is very saturated ink and a little goes a long way. The prompt this month is silhouette, and as you probably already know, silhouette refers to the outline or the general shape of an object in a painting. And usually there isn't a whole lot of detail inside this shape when we're talking about it as a silhouette. Here I will be painting silhouettes using 3 different washes and using these different values to create depth. My first wash is very heavily diluted ink. In fact, it's mostly water with just the tiniest bit of ink, and I'm going to be painting bamboo. The silhouette of bamboo is a long vertical stalk that's segmented a bit, and then little leaves sticking off at random. Here I have created several silhouettes of bamboo in a light wash. I'm going to allow it to dry completely, and then I'm going to come in with a slightly darker wash. This darker wash over the top of the lighter wash is creating depth and dimension because the lighter wash has less contrast with the background, and so it fades out just a little bit. This is called atmospheric perspective. Also, I am painting these bamboo stalks right over the top of the lighter ones, and that overlapping is also creating more depth. After this mid-value wash is dried completely, I come in with my pure matte ink and I paint that same silhouette of the bamboo. Notice that each one of my bamboo stalks is a little bit different, and this is creating interest and variety. Not every single one of my leaves works out exactly the way I planned, but with ink where you can't really erase it, you've got to just go with it. Don't become paralyzed when you make a mistake. Instead, adapt and adjust your approach and make it work. And once you have a lot of different elements on your page, no one is ever going to notice that teeny tiny little leaf that didn't go perfectly. Next, we have the Kuretake Brush Writer in pink. This brush pen requires a little bit of special attention to get it going. Remove the top, then take that yellow ring out and put the top back on, securing it tightly. You can give it a little shake to move the ink around and then press the bladder and start squeezing the ink into the bristles. This can take a little bit of time the first time, so be patient, and once you see the paint appearing in the bristles, it's time to go. Wow, look at that vibrant color. You can create a variety of different beautiful marks with this brush pen. If you move slowly, you'll be able to keep your mark a little bit tighter, whereas moving a little bit faster might result in a dry brush mark. This pen can also be diluted with water. You can dip the brush right into water or into your ink, or you can add the water separately to create a diluted wash as I'm doing here. Let's play around with the idea of silhouettes as we explore the different capabilities of this brush writer. Here I am going to put in mounds of leaves, and I'm particularly paying attention to creating an interesting shape. So I am creating several different blocks of leaves, and I'm not just creating basic ovals. I'm letting this shape be really organic and interesting, and I'm leaning into the capabilities of the brush to do that. After I have several bunches of leaves assembled the way that I want to make up the tree, I'm going to allow the ink to dry completely, and then I'm going to add a trunk to the tree using my ink. You can leave your shape as the pink mounds of leaf and the black trunk and branches, or you can do what I did here and add a bit of watered down ink to the bottom of each of my pink shapes that represent leaves. And this is helping me create that sense of light coming from above and creating shadows underneath. For the second tree, I'm using a slightly different approach, but I'm still prioritizing shape and silhouette. Instead of drawing with the brush pen first, I'm coming in and drawing the shapes that I want to create with the leaves with water. And this can be pure clean water, or this could be a heavily diluted wash that you use so that you can see the silhouettes a little easier and play around with the pink and the gray ink mixing. Then begin to drop your Brush Writer ink right into these wet blobs. You'll get this really fun tie-dye wet on wet effect, and as the ink dilutes into the water, you'll be able to see some of those lighter tones that you can create. If you want to lean even more into the wet on wet approach, you can drop a little bit of ink along the bottom of these shapes to create that sense of light falling on the tree from above. And then again, just like we did before, complete the tree with some straight black ink that explores really interesting shapes in the trunk and the branches. The Copic Acrylic marker in dark rose is another brand new product. It's an acrylic marker that you can use to create crisp, clean lines. This product also requires a little bit of activation. Every time you use this marker, give it a vigorous shake, then press the nib down into the paper to get that acrylic ink flowing. When swatched right next to the pink Brush Writer, we'll see that the dark rose is a little bit softer, and we can also see how the line varies. Notice that the line is very even and consistent as compared to the more fluid, expressive mark that the Brush Writer makes. I find that these clean, even lines made by acrylic markers are perfect for doodling, and that's exactly what we're going to do in this exercise. Let's continue to practice shape design as we sketch or doodle a variety of plants, flowers, and leaves. As you draw, be curious about the kind of shapes that you are most interested in drawing and how you can make your shapes more interesting while still being fairly simple. Consider repeating shapes multiple times, adding texture to your shapes with dashed or dotted lines, and playing around with organic versus geometric shapes. An example of an organic shape would be the leaves in this fern, where each leaf is a little bit different, and I really lean into variety in each leaf. Whereas an example of a geometric shape would be a circle or a square. And in most cases, when you're designing silhouettes, those organic shapes are going to add more interest to your drawing. The Copic Acrylic marker can be used on a variety of surfaces and over the top of a variety of different art materials. Here I'm using it over the pink Brush Writer ink to add some interest, variety, and depth to the leafy shapes that I created in the trees. Next, we have the Bamboo Reed pen in size medium, which will introduce a bunch of new mark making options. The lines that you can create with this tool are going to be scratchier and more organic. They're perfect for creating texture or for sketching. Here I am going to sketch several thumbnail designs for our final landscape that we'll be painting in just a moment. Here I am considering where the mountains and the trees and the branches will go so that all of my shapes or silhouettes work really well together and that nothing is overshadowing or overlapping an important part of my composition. Once I have a few of these sketches completed, I'm coming in with my pink Brush Writer and adding some of the leaf shapes so that I can see how that black and that pink will sit inside the space. Now, all I have to do is select my favorite thumbnail and then I can start painting my final landscape. In an ink landscape, the general rules that I am using are working from light to dark and working from those objects further away in the background towards those objects that are closer. So the first thing that I begin with is a wet on wet approach of a mountain in the background. And I want this to be really far back and really light. So I'm dropping in a very diluted ink wash into the water shape that I painted. You may experience a bit of warping if you use a lot of water in your washes. A bit of tape in the corners can help with any buckling you might experience. While I'm waiting for this to dry, I'm coming in with water again to create the shape of the leaves for the tree in the foreground. Now I'm dropping in color with my pink brush writer, and I am getting that wet on wet effect. Before I apply objects in the foreground on top of that really far back mountain range, I need to make sure it's completely dry. Then I do another wet on wet approach, this time applying slightly darker ink to the mountains that are now in front of the original mountains that I painted. While I am creating these shapes, I'm really thinking about what would be an interesting silhouette. So it's not just like a capital M, like the mountains we drew in elementary school. It's an interesting, well thought through, designed shape. After applying a few more mountain or rock shapes and some horizontal marks that represent the water, it's time to come in with my pure matte black ink and establish the trunks. And this is the perfect time to do it because the pink is now dry. I am thinking about those organic shapes that I practiced in my tree study as I do this. For that tree in the background, I'm diluting my ink slightly so that it's a lighter black and it feels like it's further away. This enforces that atmospheric perspective that I want to be throughout the entire piece. That little blob in the bottom left corner is going to be a rock in this body of water that's the closest thing to us. So I really want to make it really dark black. I'm also using this opportunity with the ink pretty dry in most of these spaces to tweak the values throughout the composition. And that tweaking also involves a light gray wash on the bottom side of my tree canopy to create that sense of light coming from above. I use the bamboo reed pen mostly for texture in the foreground, and then I begin bouncing around throughout the entire composition until I get the colors and the shapes exactly the way I want them. I end up coming in with another layer of pink with the brush pen to intensify some of those pinks in the tree, and I also bring this into the water as a reflection. My final touches for this piece are with the Copic Acria Dark Rose acrylic pen. And I use this to create some interest in those objects that are in the foreground. This helps me add a little highlight onto the rock and some detail into the land around the trees. And now this piece is complete. I hope you learned a ton about working with ink and creating fun, imaginative landscapes. We can't wait to see what you create, so be sure to use the hashtag SketchboxOctober when you post your work online. For more unboxing videos and tutorials, you can check out our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.